Hi, everyone. My name is Ian MacDonald, and welcome to CNA's first entrepreneurship session. Today, we have Ted Cadigan with the YMCA, a business consultant, delivering our first session, one of 5. Take it away, Ted.
All right. First, Ian, thank you for having me. And for everybody that's viewing, as you mentioned, my name's Ted. I work for the YMCA of Newfoundland and Labrador, leading our business planning program. My title is Senior Business Consultant, and it's our job, so that you're aware, to provide cost-free, commitment-free support to entrepreneurs across Newfoundland and Labrador as we cover 5 pillars. We're here to support the ideation process, which is turning a problem or an opportunity or a skill set into the beginnings of a business plan. Then we do business plan writing support, which means I'm here to be with you as you complete a business plan, entirely dependent on who it's for. So that might be because you're self-organizing, because you're writing to an investor or a lender, or you have a partner that's interested or a third party that's interested, like a government agency or a funder that wants to know about your business in a formalized, consistent way. That's what a business plan is for. After that, we support not the ideation process again, sorry, we do networking and personal network development. So who needs to be around you as you grow as an entrepreneur? We do training, which means you can come and attend training sessions that we host. And we do resource allocation. And in that sense, we mean, where should you be spending your time, your effort, and your money on the development of your business? Resource allocation can often be for individuals that are already in motion as an entrepreneur. So think of it as a moving business plan. Where next? Commonly used term for me is, how do I right size or direct my business through a resource allocation? We'll call it assessment. So that's who I am. As Ian alluded to, we're here to do a specific block of professional development today. We're going to be talking about defining your concept as an entrepreneur. And when we say concept, it's important to remember that this is through the lens of a business plan. So before we go too far into defining your concept and presenting what you intend to do in a business plan or to an individual, I think it's important that we unpack what a business plan is. And I think far too often people believe a business plan is a highly technical, highly complex, thick document that somebody else knows how to write, or that is a judgment day or moment where it's either going to be accepted or not accepted by a specific individual. And that couldn't be further from the truth. A business plan should be a well-written, concise, non-repetitive representation of 4 to 5 core things. That is your business idea. So in all ways, what is the idea that you intend to present, or how is it framed at this time? We'll talk about that, because that another synonym for that would be define your concept for me. Tell me your business idea is the same as define your business concept for me. So let's not get too caught up in the jargon. But that should be the first leg of your plan. After that, you need to validate that business plan, which means you told me what you think will happen. Now I need to hear about some of the research or confirmation that your idea works in the environment and at the time that you've proposed, and also at the size that you've proposed. So what that means is, you told me your story. Now prove to me through some market research or through some kind of block of research that says, this is why other people showed me it works for them in this space. So that's number 2, the research piece. Then we need the startup and operating costs and considerations articulated. That means you need to tell the reader by line what you need and what you need to do to start this business, so prior to launching, and what you need to operate this business, so as it continues to move forward. It's important to remember that those can coexist. You can have a startup cost that becomes an operating cost. They don't have to be separate lists. Really good example is the first payment on some important pieces, like your insurance or to an accountant. So remember that. They don't need to be separate lists. But the whole goal of this is to then continue to that set of financial parameters and outlines for how this business is going to go, which means you have to set up some, what I call chronological guardrails, which means, is this a 12-month business plan? Is it a 24-month business plan? Is it a 36-month business plan? But at the end of this process, you need to be able to say to the reader, for the next 36 months, I'm going to articulate for you the costs to start, the costs to operate, and the anticipated revenues and profits. From there, we can tease out that information to create more detailed or requested financial statements and documentation. But that's really what a business plan should be. What's your idea? Can you validate it for me? What, in a narrative sense, do you need to start and operate? And then walk me through the financial breakdown or the numbers side of this. If that's 8 pages, 12 pages, 14 pages, if it's 70 pages for you, I don't want you to feel like a business plan is something that somebody else knows what to expect and how to write. We always have to make considerations for what our reader needs. You know, if you're applying to a specific lending institution and they have a platform, a format, a template that they want you to use, you don't have to go against that, but work with the people that you want to learn about your business through your business plan. So that's sort of the preamble here of the lens through which I do my work, the majority of how this information is going to be relayed, with the intent to focus on step 1, which is defining your business concept. Ian, you're kind of my surrogate audience member today. Do you have any questions about that process?
Oh, Ted, I think that's fairly certain and fairly clear.
Cool.
Thanks for clarifying. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, friend. So if I'm to correct me if I'm wrong, you can see the title page on my screen, correct?
Yep, we're all set.
Lovely. Okay, so I want to touch on who you might be writing this business plan to, because it directly affects the style in which you write or the way in which you define your concept. So we're going to brush over this quickly. You need to look at, are you just self-organizing? If so, is formatting the priority? Is speaking in the third person the priority? Are you potentially procuring a business development loan? If so, what are the expectations and norms of the reader of that business plan? And feel free to speak with them during that process. You also may be mapping or researching business development options. So maybe it's not a linear path where I will do this. Maybe it's I am trying to get to an end goal. What are my paths to get there? If so, you probably have a more robust market research section and a more fluid definition of concept section. And of course, if you're building a growing or existing business, you need extensive information about your history, where if there is no history, this is a new concept. Don't feel like you're light on that section. Just remember that you can build off it in a way that works for you. And finally, are you engaging a partner or an investor? Is this a more nuanced, individualized opportunity? And if so, learn about that person's interest or motivation to speak with you, and then pander to that. If there's a specific value add an investor or a partner can bring in, talk about why the system that you've built lends itself to their skills. And it's important during this process that if you have these 5 different things, or you have versions of this that are moving around at the same time, you want to keep your business plan, or your base business plan, we'll call it, modular. And what I mean by modular is you need to be able to pluck out and insert specific sections at specific times so that you're not rewriting. And the more you have sections and subsections, the easier it'll be to plug and play pieces of information. If you have a 5 to 7 page narrative essay on your business idea, good luck modifying that as things change. But if you have 5 to 7 subsections that identify specific pieces of your concept, plugging those and removing those as we move forward, way easier to do. So keep it modular, keep it adaptable, considering that there's a different lens and approach for the different reader. All right, now, as promised, we are getting into why. Actually, I really don't need to go over this anymore. We talked more about what would go into the business plan in the preamble, so you all had that setting, but, I'm jumping around. These are that list. So if you want to go back, we talked about how a business plan is going to be, business idea description, validation, operations and startup considerations, projected financial implications. If you're looking at what market opportunity and estimate means, let's think you didn't mention that 5 or 7 minutes ago. Remember, I'm going to be dealing with that the whole time. Fun. Remember that is just a summary moment between when you've proven it works and when you start talking about how it works. That this is where you say, okay, here's the opportunity. Here's my approximate market reach or my approximate revenue. It's that line in the sand moment between what I'll do, I've proven it'll work. This is the summary statement. This is how I get it done. This is it by the numbers. So it's almost like a little halftime on the business plan in a way. Okay. Now, this is going to jump on me because I've got some kind of settings issue pulled up on this PowerPoint. So you'll see me jumping back more than I probably want to. But this is, for all intents and purposes, the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. It's how you would articulate your business concept to your reader. And Ian, please, if that slide clicks over and I'm looking at the camera, give me a wave and I'll click it back, because this slideshow is for different uses and something screwed up with my settings. Not a big deal. All right. First thing you need to articulate to your reader, the broad stroke operations of your business. And that means the what I call one breath walkthrough. So what are you intending to do in simple, universal language so that anybody, fourth grader up could get what you're saying? Don't introduce complex, showy, foreign or industry specific language here. Not impressive. It's complex and it's convoluted. Give me that really easy moment. For example, let's use a low-hanging example. This is an ice cream store. This is where you would say, delicious ice cream in this area of town. Insert space, insert community, insert opportunity, insert festival, whatever you're doing. That's that one stage moment. So from there, everyone knows what you want to do. Now, then you need to start talking about some of the tangible drivers for your business idea. Those being your mission, your values, and your goals. Your mission is that, I'll say, guiding light heartbeat statement that shows the reader why you're doing what you're doing. So in the ice cream example, which is kind of intuitive because who doesn't like ice cream, but that mission statement might be delicious treats and community connection where it wasn't available before. Maybe you're helping rejuvenate a specific neighborhood. That could be a mission statement. It can be very individualized. It should still be short. It doesn't have to be tangible or achievable, but it should represent the heartbeat of why you're doing what you're doing, compared to the number one, broad stroke operations, is a slightly more stepwise explanation. So that's your mission. Your values are, depending on how you want to present them, 2 to 3 to maybe 4 words or key phrases that embolden your mission or mission statement. So in the ice cream example, that might be nostalgia, community connection, and creativity. Maybe you have an interesting blend of ice creams that you're bringing forward. So those are those core values that can drive decisions as your business moves forward. Then your goals are something more tangible, where you say, I intend to accomplish Y by X. I want to be represented on this platform by this date. I want to serve this X customer, 100th, 1000th, whatever, by this date. You don't want to necessarily tether this to an operational goal. For example, I want to hire my first employee by this time, because that should be representative of the needs of your business at a specific time. And it should be articulated in the financial documentation at the end. So if you need an employee by month 8, because you're anticipating a growth in sales volume by month 8, that's a strategic choice. It's not necessarily a goal, because it's a component of operations, with recognition for the fact that creating employment opportunities is an essential driver and part of becoming an entrepreneur, adding value to community. So if that's the lens you're taking it through, or you want to give people employment opportunities, that could be a goal. But I wouldn't include it if it's just an operational consideration. Okay, we've talked about number one breath explanation in obvious language. We've talked about heartbeat stuff, mission, values, and goals. Number 3 is the point of differentiation. And I'm going to weave this into what you'll see there as your competitor analysis or competition analysis. Number 8, your point of differentiation is what makes you different from historically available options, purchasable alternatives, or competitors. So what I mean by historically available options is whatever you're presenting, I'm assuming in some way there was an absence of it before you arrived, either because of production, scarcity, whatever the case may be. So you can talk about that. Then there's also the importance of a purchasable alternative, where if you're putting up a, Nerf gun arena, I don't know if we're allowed to use brand names on here, but like a foam dart shooting arena, which is a lot like laser tag, which is a lot like paintball, which is, as a labeled option, we'll call it an adult leisure activity or a youth and adult leisure activity. People spend that dollar in all kinds of places, not related to running around, not related to any kind of combat or interactive game. We've got movies, we've got arcades. There's all kinds of purchasable alternatives and at-home alternatives that you're working against for access to that consumer dollar. So why you're different isn't why you're different from the other foam dart hall or arena. It's why you're different from how other people's habits have been developed and sustained. Important difference. That will, of course, tie into your competitor analysis, because that should also have a bend of what are the purchasable alternatives for my consumer. Okay. Company history has everything to do with if your company has a history. If it doesn't, that's fine. It's not required. Don't make it up. Don't pretend like you did something you didn't. If it's a new venture, that section can go. If it's not a new venture, it is essential that you elaborate on your successes and what has led to this stage. That ties directly into, or can even be a part of, your entrepreneur and management experience. You would be surprised how many institutions and individuals, excuse me for a sec, have character-based lending and investing opportunities, which means a huge component of how they assess their capacity to support a business idea is through character-based assessment, which means who is the person behind it, not what are the numbers associated with it. So this is where you can attach resume, a narrative resume, extensive walkthrough of your skill set and skill development as they relate to this idea. There is no room for humility here. You need to walk the reader through why you are the individual that should be backed for this new opportunity. So brag in that section. You're not going to come off as showy. You're going to come off as accurately representing why you're the right person for this opportunity. Okay, now customer profile. That's number 6. Sounds intuitive. Who are your customers? 2 things I want to talk about is 3 things really. 1, it's okay to have multiple. I think all too often people feel like they have to represent that, what I would call diamond customer, or that perfect customer that exactly aligns with their business, because it brings a sense of simplicity and clarity to their plan. It is perfectly reasonable to say there are a variety of people that might interface with this business in different ways or stages, and we are adjusting how we present our business offering to them based on those needs. Could be a variety of ages, could be a variety of locations. There's a host of ways to go about it. Don't be afraid to have multiple people in that, or multiple individuals or groups represented in that customer profile. That's number 1. Number 2, it's really important to recognize the difference between a customer and a consumer. A customer is the individual making a purchase. A consumer is the individual using or absorbing services. Easiest example for this is a toy store, where the customer in the majority of instances is a parent or guardian. The consumer is the child, youth, individual playing with the toy. I know there's a variety of examples where that doesn't apply. For simplicity's sake, stick with me. You need to pander to both the customer's capacity to purchase goods at your store. Your price point needs to be reasonable. You may need to be associated with some awards programs. You need to take appropriate payment. You need to be in a place where they can easily or readily access where they are. Those are all consumer-facing strategies. No, that's wrong. Customer-facing strategies. Consumer-facing strategies are, why do kids want to come to your toy store? What about it is memorable? What about it drives them to convince the customer / parent, guardian, to go to that space and spend that dollar? And you can elaborate on that example for all kinds of business-to-business interactions, where there's a funder versus a purchasing organization. The list goes on. But as you articulate your customer base, you need to look at who's consuming product and who's purchasing product. Those are different things. They aren't always. Sandwich shops. I walk in, pay my money, take my sandwich, eat my sandwich. One-stop shop. I'm the customer, I'm the consumer. So you don't always have to tease them out, but it's important to recognize that there are opportunities to do so. And the third thing is, how do you articulate this? Lots of ways to do it. But a lot of people like to use avatars or represent, we'll say, a variety of fiction, but standardized individuals that say, this is the individual we see at our place of business because they hit criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can have a row of them. It's a really humanizing and memorable way to show people how you will work with different individuals that work with your business or purchase things at your business. Okay, Number 7, market description. That just means the area. Where are you doing business? And are you aligning your targets with the area you're doing business? For example, if you have a community of 10,000 people and 1,000 of them are in your core customer base because of age, demographic, income, and in order to, based on your research, you should probably expect to capture 10% of your market. So not 100% of people that would go to your business are going to go to your business, but maybe 10% are. So that's 100 people, regular customers. Let's say a reasonable consumption pattern for that business is 3 purchases a week. So that's 100 people that you should expect through the door 3 times a week. It's starting to sound like a food establishment, but let's go with that example. And you set up, so you've done that market research, you learned about the area you want to do business in, and you've built a model around that. You shouldn't be setting up a business that's got the capacity to serve 5,000 people. You need to make consideration for where you're doing business, use that as a comparison to who's in that space, and then adjust the model you use to facilitate your business based on that. So customers to who, market is the where, with consideration that the where is only as beneficial as that's where the who are, which is probably the most confusing sentence I've ever said, but luckily we have a rewind button. Okay, finally, I want to talk about your competition analysis, which loops back to point of differentiation. It's not the immediate competitor, as in I do A, they do A. It's I do A. Where could other consumers and customers' dollars be spent instead of A? So what's the at-home alternative? What's the online alternative? What's the alternative to omit, which means what if people just don't want to come? And for what reason? Is it because of the price? Is it because of the location? Is it because of the branding? What is it? So your competition needs to be broken down into a number of different sections. For example, you might have a primary obvious customer where you deliver specific services, they deliver specific services. You've identified there's room for another entity or competitor in that market, so you start a business. Great. You can also look at your indirect competitors or purchasable alternatives. Those are the pieces we spoke about in the point of differentiation. If you need more context on that, head back to that part of the video. You're also going to want to look at how you build this out. And a lot of lenders and readers want to see what's called a SWOT analysis, SWOT. I believe it's kind of an unnecessarily complex or foreign term to describe something reasonably simple, which is it's an easy way to break out a competitor's strengths, their weaknesses, what you see as the opportunity, and what their position poses as a threat. So the strengths and weaknesses are reflective of how their business operates, and the opportunities and threats are representative of how your business operates in comparison to what they do. So if you're looking for a way to identify a customer and then articulate information about them, consider a SWOT analysis. It's not the only way forward, but it's a reasonable approach that I know some lenders are used to or sometimes expecting to see. So to use that as a full circle moment, you don't need to guess what they're expecting to see. You can ask them. So to loop back to the beginning before we got to this slide, the business plan is only that simple and potentially lengthy, but reasonably simple breakdown of 5 things. What you want to do, which is what we've talked about today. Identification of concept, representation of business idea. Validation of concept, which is what we'll get into in the future video. That's how do you know it works? What's the research you did? A little halftime summary or review. Where's the money going now and over time? Where's the effort going now and over time? And finally, show me the numbers. So however this needs to be presented should relate to who you're speaking to. If it's for no one, do it how you want. If it's for a third party, talk to them about what they want. So that's all I wanted to talk about, which I know is kind of ironic after a 15 to 20 minute ramble, but that's what I had to say today. And Ian, I wanted to thank you for giving me the space and time to talk to whoever's watching. So thank you very much.
Thank you much, Ted. So that's it for today's session. And we'll be posting one in January and more in the new year. So thanks everyone for watching.
There we go. Bye now.